The massive space station hung in the darkness like a crown of metal and light. It orbited a star that belonged to no one, which meant the Galaxy Council claimed it belonged to everyone. General Li Jinwu stood at the window of his small transport ship, watching the station grow larger. He had fought in 3 colonial wars and survived 2 assassination attempts, but he had never felt quite like this.
Afraid? No. Angry? Absolutely.
General will be docking in 10 minutes, said Ambassador Han Mira from behind him. She was young for a diplomat, only 35, but she had sharp eyes that missed nothing.
I need to warn you.
The council is not acting normal.
They're coordinated. Aggressive.
Something is very wrong. Jinwu nodded but said nothing. In his uniform pocket he carried a data chip no bigger than his thumbnail. It contained 3 years of secret intelligence work. 3 years of digging through wreckage and intercepted signals. 3 years of searching for the truth about what happened to Mars Colony 3. 3 years of searching for why his son died. The transport ship shuddered as it connected to the docking port. Jinwu straightened his uniform and followed Mira through the airlock. The corridor beyond was enormous, built to accommodate species of every size and shape. The walls glowed with soft light and holographic symbols marked the way to the council chamber. 2 young officers tried to follow Jinwu, but alien guards stopped them at the entrance. Council protocol, one guard said in perfect human language. Only the general and ambassador may enter. Jinwu waved his officers back. He had expected this. Everything about the council was designed to make visitors feel small and alone. The chamber doors opened like the mouth of some vast creature. The room beyond was circular and huge, rising up in platforms where the council members sat in judgment. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing warships and weapons from a dozen alien civilizations. It was meant to intimidate. Jinwu felt nothing but cold determination. The Jothics sat on the highest platform. They looked like giant insects with shining black shells and clicking mandibles. Their leader spoke first and translation devices made his words sound like thunder. General Li Jinwu, you are accused of breaking the Treaty of Controlled Expansion. Humanity has built too many weapons. You have turned your solar system into a fortress. Explain yourself. To the left sat the Tlorn, beings made of living crystal that glowed with inner light. To the right floated the Merval in their water tanks, their fish-like bodies swimming in slow circles. Directly across sat the Draxun, reptilian warriors with scales like armor and eyes that never blinked. Jinwu stood in the center of the chamber, a single human surrounded by the power of 12 alien civilizations. Beside him, Mira looked calm, but he could see her hands trembling slightly. We hear the council's concerns, Jinwu said clearly. The Draxun general, Karax, laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Concerns? You monkeys have built particle weapons around your moon. You have military shipyards near your gas giant. You have defense satellites everywhere. This is not concerning. This is threatening. Jinwu's face remained expressionless. He thought of his son Doyen, who had been 12 years old. Doyen wanted to be a scientist. He loved Mars Colony 3 because he could see the stars more clearly there. The attack came without warning. 15,000 people died in less than an hour. The council promised to investigate. That investigation never came. The council offers you a choice, said the Tlorn arbiter. Their voice was softer than the others, almost sad. Remove your weapons and accept our oversight. Or refuse and Earth will be cut off from all galactic trade. You have 48 hours to decide. Jinwu reached into his pocket and felt the data chip. I would like to present Earth's answer now. The Jothic leader's mandibles clicked with amusement. Very well. You have 1 hour, General. Speak quickly. Jinwu walked to the central console and inserted the chip. The holographic displays began to change, filling with new images and data. You are correct, Jinwu said quietly, looking up at the council members. We did build weapons. We did militarize our system. He pressed a button and the first image appeared. An unmarked warship in human space, its weapons charged and ready. Let me show you exactly why we had to. The end of part 1. The holographic displays shifted, and the council chamber filled with images of Earth's military installations. General Li Jinwu stood silently as the accusations began to pile up like stones. 147 violations, the Jothic chancellor announced, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. 147 separate breaches of the treaty you signed willingly. Weapons platforms on your moon. Shipyards expanded without permission. Defense grids that could threaten peaceful traffic. Each accusation came with visual proof. The holograms showed Luna Base with its new particle cannons. The Jupiter shipyards, now 3 times their original size. Satellite networks surrounding Earth in protective layers. To anyone watching, humanity looked like a species preparing for war. The Draxun General Karex stood from his platform, his reptilian form towering and intimidating. "Look at these primitive apes," he said with contempt. "They joined the Council only 60 years ago. They barely understand fusion reactors, and now they play with weapons they cannot control. They are children with knives." Several Council members made sounds of agreement. The Merval delegates whispered among themselves in their water tanks, their voices bubbling through speakers. Ambassador Han Mira stepped forward, trying to defend Earth, but the Jothic Chancellor raised a clawed hand to silence her. "The evidence speaks clearly," the Chancellor said. "Humanity has become a threat to galactic peace. You will disarm immediately, and Council inspectors will oversee every military installation in your system. This is not a request. This is the price of remaining in the Council." Jinwoo watched them all carefully. He noticed how the Jothic and Draxun exchanged glances. How the Merval had already prepared economic reports about rerouting trade away from human space. How some Council members smiled with satisfaction. This was not a trial. This was theater. The decision had already been made. Only the Tlorn Arbiters seemed uncomfortable, their crystalline form pulsing with uncertain light. Jinwoo's mind drifted back 3 years. He remembered the emergency signal from Mars Colony 3. He had been on Earth, attending a military conference. The message came through garbled and broken. His son's voice, screaming. Explosions. Then silence. He took the first transport to Mars, but by the time he arrived, there was nothing left but ruins. 15,000 bodies. Homes collapsed. The main dome breached in 12 places. The official report said it was a pirate raid. Random violence from outlaws. But Jinwoo had studied the wreckage. The weapons signatures did not match any known pirate groups. The attack was too coordinated, too precise. Someone had targeted the colony's life support systems with expert knowledge. Someone had jammed all communications so no distress signal could escape. Someone with military training and advanced technology. General Lee, the Tlorn Arbiter's voice pulled him back to the present. "Do you have anything to say in Earth's defense?" Jinwoo looked up at them all. At their positions of power and certainty. At their comfortable assumption that humanity would bow and accept subjugation. "Yes," he said quietly. "I do." He pressed another button on the console, and the holographic displays changed again. New images appeared. Surveillance footage from the outer edges of human space. Unmarked ships with their identification transponders disabled. Sensor readings showing weapon signatures. For 3 years, Earth's intelligence services have been tracking these vessels, Jinwoo said, his voice steady and cold. "Ships that appear in our territory without permission. Ships that scan our colonies and disappear. Ships that watched Mars Colony 3 for 6 months before the attack." The chamber went very quiet. "We analyzed the weapons used on Mars," Jinwoo continued. "The biotoxins match Jothic military specifications. The stealth technology matches Draxun military patents. The jamming equipment matches Council standard issue." He let that sink in for a moment. "Mars Colony 3 was not destroyed by pirates," Jinwoo said, his voice growing harder. "It was destroyed by you. By ships operating under Council authority. You tested your weapons on our children to see how we would respond. You murdered 15,000 people to measure our military capability." Chaos erupted in the Council chamber. Several species began shouting at once. The Jothic Chancellor rose from his seat, mandibles clicking furiously. "This is absurd. These accusations are baseless." But Jinwoo was not finished. He pressed another button and audio recordings began to play. Council military commanders discussing the human problem and acceptable casualties. "You attacked our home," Jinwoo said quietly, but his voice carried through the entire chamber. "And now you will answer for it." The end of part 2. The Council chamber exploded into noise. Alien voices shouted in a dozen languages, and the translation devices struggled to keep up. General Lee Jinwoo stood calmly at the center of it all, watching the chaos unfold like a commander observing a battlefield. The Jothic Chancellor's mandibles clicked so rapidly they created a sound like a machine gun. "Lies. These recordings are fabricated. Humanity has created false evidence to escape judgment." But the Tlorn Arbiter raised one crystalline hand, and gradually the chamber fell silent. Their telepathic presence demanded attention. "Let the evidence be examined," they said, their voice carrying weight and authority. "If these claims are false, it will be obvious. If they are true, then we have much to answer for. Jinwoo pressed another button. The holographic displays filled with data streams. Ship manifests. Fuel consumption records. Maintenance logs. Every piece of information Earth's intelligence network had gathered over 3 years of patient, careful investigation. These ships, Jinwoo said, pointing to the holograms, appeared in human space 17 times over 2 years. Each time they stayed just long enough to scan our defenses and military positions. Each time they left before we could intercept them. He zoomed in on one particular vessel. This ship was spotted 3 kilometers from Mars Colony 3 exactly 1 week before the attack. Its weapon signatures matched the residue we found in the colony ruins. Biotoxins designed to break down life support systems. Jothic technology. The Jothic delegates began protesting loudly, but Jinwoo continued without pause. These stealth modifications, he pointed to another technical schematic, are Draxun military grade. The jamming equipment that prevented Mars from sending a distress signal uses Council standard encryption codes. Codes that only Council military forces possess. Several Council members who had not been part of the conspiracy looked genuinely shocked. The Merval began rapid calculations on their displays, their economic minds already computing the cost of this scandal. Some smaller delegations whispered urgently among themselves. Ambassador Han Mira stepped forward, her diplomatic training allowing her to read the room perfectly. General Lee has more evidence, she said clearly, including communication intercepts. Jinwoo played the audio recordings. Council military officers discussing humanity in cold, clinical terms. The humans are expanding too quickly. Their adaptability makes them unpredictable. We need to test their response capabilities. Mars Colony 3 is isolated enough. Acceptable losses. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the recordings played. Even the Draxun General Korex, who had been so confident earlier, now sat very still, his reptilian eyes darting toward the exits. You murdered my son, Jinwoo said quietly, but every being in the chamber heard him. You murdered 15,000 people. Not in war. Not in self-defense. You murdered them as an experiment. To see if humanity was worth worrying about. He took a step forward, his hands clenched at his sides. And when we asked for an investigation, you blocked it. You buried it under paperwork and procedures. You thought we would forget. You thought we would move on. The Tlorn Arbiter's crystalline form glowed brighter. This is a serious accusation, General Lee. If proven true, this would be a war crime under galactic law. It is proven, Jinwoo said. He gestured to the data surrounding them. 3 years of evidence. Satellite footage. Weapon analysis. Communications intercepts. Ship tracking data. All of it verified and cross-referenced. The Jothic Chancellor tried to regain control. Even if some rogue elements acted inappropriately, this does not excuse humanity's military buildup. You still violated the treaty. Jinwoo smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We violated nothing. The treaty allows defensive measures when faced with external threats. You became that threat the moment you attacked Mars. He pressed one final button, and the holographic display showed Earth's current military status. Every weapon platform, every ship, every defense grid, all positioned purely for protection, not aggression. We built these defenses because you taught us we needed them, Jinwoo said. You showed us that the Council could not be trusted. That treaties and laws mean nothing when powerful species decide to eliminate competition. The Merval delegate spoke for the first time, their voice bubbling through their tank. If this evidence is released publicly, the political consequences will be catastrophic. Dozens of minor species will lose faith in Council protection. Yes, Jinwoo agreed. They will. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every Council member. So here is what happens next. You will acknowledge what you did. You will face justice. Or I will broadcast this evidence to every independent system in the galaxy. You are threatening the Council? Korex snarled. No, Jinwoo replied calmly. I am giving you a choice. The same choice you gave us. Accept the consequences or face isolation. The end of Part 3. The Council chamber had never been so quiet. General Lee Jinwoo stood at the center, waiting. Around him, 12 alien civilizations tried to process what had just happened. For the first time in Council history, a species they considered primitive had backed them into a corner. The Draxun General Korex was the first to break the silence. He rose from his seat, his reptilian scales glinting in the chamber's light. This is blackmail. If you release that evidence, you declare war on the entire Council. Your pathetic fleet would be destroyed in days. Jinwoo did not flinch. You are welcome to try. Something in his voice made Karex pause. It was not bravado or empty confidence. It was the calm certainty of someone who had already calculated every possibility and accepted the consequences. Ambassador Han Mira touched a device on her wrist. Instantly, the holographic display shifted again, showing real-time data from the Sol system. Earth's entire defense fleet had moved into position at the edge of human space, perfectly aligned at the treaty boundary lines. Our ships are smaller than yours, Jinwoo acknowledged. We have fewer resources, less advanced shields, and our weapons are not as powerful. He paused. But we have something you do not. And what is that? The Jothic Chancellor asked mockingly. Nothing left to lose, Jinwoo replied. You already took everything when you killed our people. Now we have only two choices, fight or submit to those who murdered our children. Which choice do you think we will make? The Tlorn Arbiter's crystalline form pulsed thoughtfully. General Lee, threats will not resolve this situation. What exactly do you want? Jinwoo pulled out a data tablet and displayed his terms on the main hologram. First, immediate investigation into the Mars attack. Full transparency. Second, everyone involved faces trial under galactic law. Third, reparations paid to the families of the 15,000 victims. Fourth, complete renegotiation of humanity's status in the Council as equals, not subordinates. Impossible, Karex snarled. The Council does not negotiate with lesser species. Then we are finished here, Jinwoo said simply. He made a gesture, and the evidence files began uploading to a broadcast system. In 30 seconds, every independent colony, every minor species, every trading post in the galaxy will receive complete documentation of what the Council did to Mars Colony 3. Wait. The Merval delegate's voice bubbled urgently through their tank. Their economic calculations were complete, and the numbers terrified them. If this information spreads, the political damage will be irreparable. Trade agreements will collapse. Minor species will rebel. The economic cost alone would be catastrophic. Jinwoo stopped the upload with 5 seconds remaining. Then give me a reason to wait. The council members began arguing among themselves. The Jothic and Draxun demanded military action. The Merval insisted on negotiation. The Tlorn called for justice and truth. Smaller council members who had known nothing of the conspiracy demanded explanations from their colleagues. While they argued, Jinwoo sent a coded signal to Earth's fleet. What happened next made every council member freeze. 3 Draxun reconnaissance ships that had been secretly shadowing Earth's fleet suddenly went dark. Their weapon systems shut down. Their engines stopped. Their communications died. They drifted in space, completely disabled. No shots had been fired. No violence had occurred. But in 3 seconds, Earth had demonstrated something terrifying. They had learned to turn council technology against itself. How? Karex whispered, staring at the display showing his disabled ships. You taught us, Jinwoo said. Every time you sent unmarked ships into our space we studied them. We learned your systems. We found your weaknesses. You gave us 3 years to prepare. He looked around the chamber. Humanity spent 60 years trying to fit into your council. Trying to follow your rules. Trying to be accepted. And what did it get us? You tested weapons on our families. The upload timer began counting down again. 20 seconds. Ambassador Mira spoke softly. General Lee has also transmitted all evidence to 47 independent systems and 17 minor species alliances. They are watching this tribunal. They are waiting to see if the council believes in its own laws. 15 seconds. The Tlorn Arbiter made a decision. Emergency session. Council members, we vote now. Accept General Lee's terms and begin immediate investigation, or refuse and face the consequences. 10 seconds. The Merval voted first. Accept. The economic damage of refusing is too severe. The Tlorn voted second. Accept. Justice must be served. Other council members who had not been part of the conspiracy quickly followed. The vote was splitting the council apart. 5 seconds. The Jothic Chancellor saw the inevitable. We accept. Stop the broadcast. Jinwoo stopped the timer with 1 second remaining. Smart choice, he said quietly. The end of Part 4. 6 months had passed since the tribunal. General Lee Jinwoo stood on Mars at the memorial built for the 15,000 victims of the attack. The red dust of Mars blew gently across the polished stone walls, where names were carved in alphabetical order. He found his son's name easily. Lee Doyen. Age 12. Aspiring scientist. I kept my promise, Jinwoo whispered to the stone. They answered for what they did. Behind him, Ambassador Han Mira waited respectfully. She had news, but she knew the general needed these moments alone with his grief. The council had fractured after the truth came out. The Jothic Chancellor and 3 of his top military commanders were now in council prison, awaiting trial. The Draxun General Karex had fled to the outer territories, but council hunters were tracking him. 12 other officials faced charges ranging from conspiracy to war crimes. But more importantly, everything had changed. The Treaty of Controlled Expansion was gone, replaced by the Treaty of Sovereign Defense. Earth now had full voting rights in the council, equal to any other member. Human ships could travel freely through galactic space. Human colonies could expand without asking permission. And humanity was no longer alone. General, Mira said softly, the Tlorn delegation has arrived. They want to discuss the cultural exchange program. Jinwoo nodded and followed her back to the transport. The Tlorn had been the first to reach out after the tribunal, apologizing for not seeing the conspiracy sooner. They offered to share their telepathic communication technology, which would help human colonies stay connected across vast distances. Other species followed. The Merval offered favorable trade routes and economic partnerships. Several smaller species that had always feared the Council's power asked to join what they called the Human Coalition for mutual protection. Even some Draxun military officers, disgusted by Karex's actions, had requested transfers to study human tactical strategies. They were fascinated by how Earth's smaller fleet had disabled their ships without firing a single shot. The transport lifted off from Mars and Jinwoo looked down at the red planet. Construction crews were rebuilding Colony 3. This time, it would have the best defenses humanity could provide. It would never be vulnerable again. There is other news, Mira said as they traveled back to Earth. We received a message from the Council's Deep Space Monitoring Network. There is something approaching from the edge of the galaxy. Something they have never seen before. A threat? Jinwoo asked. Unknown. But it is big enough to scare them. The Tlorn Arbiter sent a personal message requesting Earth's help in investigating. Jinwoo almost smiled. 6 months ago, the Council had tried to force humanity into submission. Now they were asking for help. The irony was not lost on him. What did you tell them? He asked. That we would consider it, Mira replied. But I wanted your opinion first. Jinwoo thought about it carefully. He could refuse and let the Council face this new threat alone. After what they did to Mars, they deserved no mercy. But he thought about his son, who had loved science and discovery. Doyen would have wanted to know what was out there in the darkness. He would have wanted to explore and understand. Tell them we will send a joint expedition, Jinwoo decided. But under human command. And with full transparency. No secrets. No hidden agendas. Mira nodded, understanding. The Council will not like those terms. They do not have to like them, Jinwoo said. They just have to accept them. That is the new order now. The transport reached Earth orbit, and Jinwoo looked down at his home planet. The blue and green world had survived so much. Wars, climate disasters, alien contact, and betrayal. But humanity endured. They always endured. His communicator chimed. It was Admiral Cho Hyun, commander of Earth's defense fleet. General, the new shipyards are complete. We are ready to begin construction on the coalition fleet. Ships for Earth and our allies. Good, Jinwoo replied. Begin immediately. And Admiral, make sure every ship has this painted somewhere visible. Never again. Yes, sir. Never again. Jinwoo ended the call and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a new threat was coming. The Council was afraid. The galaxy was changing. But humanity was ready. They had learned the hardest lesson possible. In a dangerous universe, you could not rely on others to protect you. You had to be strong enough to protect yourself. And strong enough to protect those who could not fight alone. The memorial on Mars would stand forever, a reminder of what was lost. But it would also be a promise. Humanity would never be victims again. They would be defenders, protectors, leaders. The galaxy had tried to break them and failed. Now it was humanity's turn to reshape the galaxy. The end.